Okay, we continue in Sefer Shmuel. We're at the end of Perek Yud Beis, just finishing up on that last story there. Pasuk Chav Gimel, I believe. This is after the victory that the Jewish people have against Nachash, and Shmuel brings everybody back together, and he gives them very strong rebuke of how they're wanting a king, which they didn't want Hashem. And then Shmuel is now has everyone together there, and it's during the harvest season where rain would be a very terrible thing, and he says, and I'm going to call to Hashem to make it rain. You should know that you were bad guys. And that's what happens. It's thunder and lightning, and everyone's afraid. And then they said they sinned, and they did tshuva. And then Shmuel says, don't worry, if you'll be good, everything will be fine, and Hashem will be okay with you. And they were afraid that maybe Shmuel wasn't being loyal to them. He says, no, I'm going to be loyal too, and that's what he says in Pasuk Chav Gimel. He says, Gam anochi chalilo li mechato Hashem mechado lispal vatchem. And also for myself, God forbid that I should sin against Hashem, that I should withhold from praying on your behalf. You're afraid that I will not be, Malcolm says, I won't be a protection for you, I won't bring my merits to help you. God forbid, don't say that. And also, and I'm going to continue to teach you the proper way to serve Hashem. So the two things that my job is, that I should protect you through my prayers and to teach you how to be good Jews, I'll continue to do that, so don't worry. But you must fear Hashem. You have to serve Him in truth with your entire heart. So you should see how Hashem is, how He's made you big with you. So you do what Hashem wants, and everything will be fine. And that's basically the whole message He was trying to bring across to them. One second. Asher Higdil. So Michalowicz explains what's Asher Higdil. What's mean Asher Higdili Mochem? So Michalowicz explains Asher Higdil Chastoi Mochem Limchol Havon Hazeh. This is you serve Him with truth because now you've seen how Hashem has increased His chesed to you, that He has forgiven you for your averos, and He's stopped the rain and He's letting you to continue. However, Im Hareya Toriyu, but if you're going to continue to do bad, so Gamatem Gamalkechem Tisafu, then you and your king will be finished. There'll be nothing left. It won't help all that you want. Nothing's going to help. So basically, those are the final words to initiate the new kingdom. First time Shul was anointed, people didn't take him seriously. Now that he won the war against Nachash, this is the kind of king we want, and we don't need to have to Hashem. So Shmuel's bringing it full circle and saying, no, that's not the way it should be. It has to be still with the Navi, you still have to listen, and you have to be connected to Hashem. And he scared them, so as we're showed them, you can't do anything without Hashem. So that ends that story. So now Shul is ready to go. Okay, we start a new Perek now, Perek Yud Gimel, and the next pasuk is an extremely difficult pasuk to understand, and gives the commentaries fits, trying to understand exactly what's going on over here. Pasuk Aleph. Ben Shana. First we'll translate it literally, and then we'll give you what the commentaries have to say over here. Okay. Ben Shana Shaul b'Malcho. Shaul was 1 year old when he ruled. Ushtei Shani Malach al Yisrael, and he ruled for 2 years over the Jewish people. That's the literal translation of the words, which obviously is a great problem. So first we'll start with the Targum's explanation, and then we'll continue. There's two problems. Number one, how can he be 1 year old? Number two, how can he rule for only 2 years? We'll see as we learn about Shaul, there's so many stories going on. First, the things he did, the number of battles he fought, how he felt that David was trying to take away his power. David has a rulership in Hebron for 7 years before he really becomes the actual king. There's too many stories going on to compact Shaul's entire kingship in 2 years. It's very difficult, very, very difficult to say. And how could he be 1 year old? So we start with the Targum. Targum says, Kibar shana deleis bechovin, like a 1 year old who has no sin, came Shaul kadmolach. So was Shaul as he ruled. So we're trying to say what kind of a tzaddik he was. That Shaul was such a tzaddik, he was like a 1 year old, just like we had by Sarah when she says she was 127. That even when she was 20, she was when she was 100, she was like someone with 20 with no sin. Interesting how, by Sarah we're applying her as someone like 20 without sin, and Shaul someone like 1 without sin. But be that as it may, trying to bring across the idea that he started off as a tzaddik. So this Targum is based on a Chazal, which the Musar and his Nevi'im brings out. It is a Yerushalmi, rather. Yerushalmi Bikurim says, Chacham, Chasan, Nasi, Gedula Mechaperes. A Chacham, a Chasan, and a Nasi, a leader, when they are brought to their position of greatness, it brings a kapara. So, in other words, when a wise man is appointed to be the spiritual leader over the people, his averos are forgiven. If someone becomes a chasan, his averos are forgiven. And if someone is put in a position of political leadership, he is forgiven. And I'm not going to get to the other ones, but the one that relates to us is this one here. And it says, and the pasuk they bring is that it was Ben Shana Shaul B'Malcho. That he was like a 1 year old. Was he really 1 year old? But his sins were forgiven. Ketinok Ben Shana, like a child who's 1 year old. So that shows you that your averos are forgiven at that point in time. It's a tremendous time for a person to do tshuva. So the Musar Nevi'im gives a very interesting insight as to why that is so. So he gives a practical reason. He says, well, if a person is not forgiven, so now what will happen if a person now gets married and he has a number of averos in his life, and he's bringing those averos as baggage into his new relationship with his spouse? So what's going to happen is that if this person, brings averos, he'll ultimately be punished for averos that he does. And now if he gets punished, then his wife is obviously going to be affected by the punishments that he gets. So it's really not right that as he starts his new course in life, that he should come with that baggage that will impact on other people who haven't really done anything to deserve to be associated with the punishments that he's getting for those averos. And similarly, if the leader becomes the leader of the people and he has baggage, then certainly that's not going to be a good thing for the Jewish people as well. So therefore, so that they shouldn't have to suffer from the person's past, as it were, so Hashem gives you a tremendous gift, that these people's averos are forgiven. Obviously, it doesn't happen automatically. You have to do tshuva. You have to, but it's a very auspicious moment. Hashem helps you out. No different than Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is, it's a great day Hashem gives you. Of course, you have to take advantage. Yom Kippur is the one day that the Yetzer Hara doesn't work. He's not working on that day, so you are able to do tshuva unhindered. However, you have to make the effort. You're going to just sit around and do nothing the whole Yom Kippur, no tshuva is going to happen. But it's extremely auspicious time to make that happen, and if you make that effort, it will happen. Similarly, the day you get married, if you do tshuva, it's for you that one day. There's no Yetzer Hara as well. Everything is, Yetzer Hara is not going to tell you it's a bad day today. It's not going to pull you down on the day you're getting married. But you got to, he won't, but the photographers will, the caterer, everyone else will pull you down. But he at least is not involved. So now you have a great chance to do tshuva. And now it's only right that you and your kala start with fresh. Same thing with a person who's given a rabbinic place of authority or a political place of authority, that you're able to want at least to start with a clean slate, as it were. I think you can also say, as we said last Shabbos, the idea is that real simcha comes from a person who reaches a state of shleimus, reaches a state of perfection. And certainly when a person gets married, he achieves a state of shleimus. And when you have shleimus, you have simcha. If you have simcha, right, it's brought from the moral, that simcha, a Jewish simcha, which loosely translated means joy, is dependent on shleimus. You reach a state of perfection in life. You reach a state of perfection in life, and you're besimcha, you're usually not going to sin. Usually sinners come from depression and other feelings, but a person feels he lacks nothing and has everything and feels connected to Hashem. He's usually not going to do any averos. And certainly, when a person gets married, he's reaching, it says that a person who's not married doesn't have shalom, doesn't have shleimus. Same thing. You could say that, in your position of leadership, you will develop more shleimus, because not only do you have to deal with one person like a chassan deals with one, you have to deal with the whole Jewish people. There's a tremendous amount of shleimus that a person can develop at that time. So Shaul HaMelech at this time started with a clean slate, which therefore is saying a number of things. Number one is the Jewish people cannot complain to Hashem that the reason Shaul didn't work out is because we didn't bring a good guy for the job. Ultimately, you will see that the downfall of Shaul, although he has a fault for that to happen, but what caused the downfall of Shaul, as you'll see in this coming parak, is what? Is the public pressure. It's the public pressure. So it's the people themselves who bring the king down. It wasn't that they brought a king who was already not so good, so he was coming into the job with faults. And they're going to say, what kind of king did you give us? You didn't give us a tzaddik. He says, I'm giving you 100% tzaddik. The Navi is being made. He was like a 1-year-old child with sin. He didn't do any affairs. But, political pressure, not necessarily, that's not something he was used to having to deal with. He didn't have to contend with that as the shepherd or the helper for his father. He was a tzaddik. But now he has to deal with all these different pressures on people that are going to bring to bear onto him, so that he wasn't able to withstand. So ultimately, the king of the Jews fails because of the Jews. And therefore the Jews realized that maybe it's not such a good idea to have a king. That's what brought him down, as it were. It's also interesting, the Musar feels to bring down at this point, and in terms of what was his age. There's a big machlokas here in the poskim, how old was Shaul really? But he brings down in the name of Rav Sadia, who is a grandson of the Rambam, that says, when it says that he's Ben Shana, there's a hint over there. Ben is the letters Beis Nun Sofis, which is the gematria of 52. 52 years old, and that's hinting to how old he was. That's what Sadia says. And the Musar Navim adds, so why was it written just as a hint and not explicitly say he was 52 years old? So he says that it was to cover up Shaul's honor, to keep his honor. Why? Because they say when a person sins, so if you don't get to a certain age of maturity, the sin can't be considered so great. Because until he's really fully developed, we understand why people make say a person makes a mistake as a teenager, doesn't get punished even in Hashem's court. Because we know he's not fully developed. Even in your 20s, 30s, you don't have everything that's there. When a person reaches a certain age of development, Ben Arboim Labina, when you're 40 you have Bina, Ben Chamishim Le'esim, when you're 50 years old you can give advice. If you're ready to give advice when you're 50, that means you've got some brains. You already have life experiences that should have taught you enough lessons in life. So therefore, when you sin until you're mature, it's more understandable. But if a person sins after he has supposedly developed a certain sense of maturity, that only heightens the aver that he does, and that explains why Hashem has less tolerance for Shaul's mistakes. As we will see, that Shaul makes one mistake and Hashem knocks him off. David makes 2 mistakes, Hashem doesn't knock him off. Right? So part of that is because more was expected from Shaul. Because as he was older, much more was demanded from him. And therefore, since it's a negative to him, so therefore they only hint to the fact that he was 52 years old. But they don't expressly say that he was 52 years old.
That was at the beginning of his reign, 52.
Yeah, or the second year. I mean, we'll see. He was there a little bit until they finally recognized him. So That's one of the interpretations, but you're not going to get any total agreement over here. You look in the Seder Hadoros, which is one of the historical Midrashim over there, and he brings down he was Ben Nuntes Shana Keshenimshach. He was 59 years old when he was anointed. So that's another opinion. How long he ruled is also a great source of debate over here. Some say that the 2 years. So Seder Doros continues and gives us another interpretation. So first he brings down Umalach Beishanim. He brings one source that says it was 2 years, as the pasuk says, 2 years. But others say he brings down from the Ralbag in Sefer Shmuel that he ruled for 20 years, and there's others who say he ruled for 17 years. Others who bring down that he ruled for 18 years while Shmuel was alive, and 2 years after Shmuel died. Others say don't agree with that, because it seems that when he brought Shmuel back from the dead, it was relatively soon after Shmuel died. But some say he only died 4 months after Shmuel died. So a lot of discussion over here. So, and others explain what's the 2 years. In other words, it means he ruled, but then there was a certain amount of 2 years as well. He says another interpretation. He ruled 2 years over the Jews until David was secretly anointed. And from that point it wasn't considered his kingdom, because he was like a king without a crown. Because once the new king was anointed, even though it wasn't public, it wasn't like he was a king. So it's saying he ruled 2 years until David was anointed, and then it could have been many years where David was around, and but it still wouldn't come out to 17 or 20 like the other commentaries say. So and then he also said some of the years are Shul, and some of the years were Shmuel. All right, they get included in some of Shmuel's years. So it's really not clear. So it's one of these issues in Tanakh that you're never really going to know. And it's interesting. You go as a child in school, in day school, they always give you this big chart and says that he was a king for 2 years and finished. And really most commentaries do not agree with that. Much more had to happen in his life to explain all the different things that went on over there. And if you look at all the commentaries, that's what the Ralbag says. It's too unusual to say that all the different events that happened transpired in such a small amount of time. So therefore, as we already brought down from the Ralbag, that it was, he says he was 20 years. So whatever, it was a much more significant amount of time than the mere 2 years that are mentioned over here. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, right. Okay. So what does he do as he starts his new reign? So let's continue pasuk Beis and Gimel. Vayivchar lo Shaul shloshes alofim Yisrael. Shaul chose for himself 3,000 soldiers from the Jewish people. Vayiyu im Shaul alpayim b'michmash. So there was with Shaul a standing army of 2,000 men in his hometown of Michmash. Ubahar Beis, between Michmash and Bahar Beis Kel, the mountain of Beis Kel, there were 2,000 there. And 1,000 were with his son Yonasan in a place called Givas Binyamin. And the rest of the people, Shilach Ishalov, he sent everybody back to their tents. So the Malm explains over here that how he explains Ben Shana Shol Mocho, he was 1 year king, meaning in his first year of his realm. He never planned on having any kind of wars. When he was made the king, he never planned on fighting wars, even though he just had to fight Nachash. That was in response to Nachash instigating a war. But now that he is officially the king and everybody agrees he's a king, so instead of setting out to make conquest over the world, Shaul's idea of being the king was, we should be at peace right now. So therefore, the way the Malum learns is Ben Shana Shirol B'Mocho means during the first year of his rule, and then 2 years he ruled. That's like a non sequitur over there. And by the way, he ruled for 2 years. Again, whatever interpretation you use, but really, what it means to say is in that first year of rulership, what did he choose to do? He chose not to fight. It's not a time for fighting, and therefore, what did he do? he had 2,000 soldiers. That was his standing army, because every king has to have somebody around. They always have to have some armed guard. And he would travel from Michmash to Har Beis Kel. So he'd have 1,000 soldiers in Michmash and 1,000 soldiers in Har Beis Kel. And these are the ones who would take care of him. And then, of course, Yonasan, who was his eldest son and who was a very big warrior himself, there'd be 1,000 with Yonasan as well. Right? So really, his plan was not to fight at all. So now, what would be the idea? So Malvin explains, interestingly, because we know that there is an idea of a Shana Rishana in marriage. There's an idea of a first year in marriage. Just like in the first year in marriage, what do we say? A new husband does not go to war in the first year. You have to stay totally focused on your relationship with your wife. There's a lot of things you do. You don't do the things like you normally do in marriage, where you're busy and you're away from home. Certainly, you don't do things to preoccupy yourself to such an extent that you can't be totally preoccupied with your wife. And war is obviously the greatest preoccupation of one's can have. And therefore, just like when you get married, you don't go to battle. So you see again the same connection. So now that you're getting married to the Jewish people, as it were, you're their leader. You have to, just like the husband has to get to know his wife in the Shana Rishona. So to speak, the king gets married to the Jewish people when he is coronated, and he has to get to know the Jewish people. And you really can only get to know the Jewish people in times of peace. So he made up that I don't want to have anything to do with, at least in the first year, there shouldn't be any battles. I shouldn't try to provoke any battles, shouldn't make any of that, and just have that perfect Shana Rishona with my people. And then, as the vicissitudes of life come, fine, we'll have to make decisions how to go to battle. That is what he had hoped to achieve. However, Hashem has other ideas, because Hashem right away wants to test out Shul to see if he can be the kind of leader that he's meant to be. So, exactly, again, it will depend on which interpretation you're learning. Was he king 2 years before David came? Whatever. But be that as it may, we'll see in the very next pasuk, Hashem brings events into being that this long-lasting peace that Shaul HaMelech wanted would not exist. And he'd immediately have to go to battle, and he'd immediately have to be tested with a test that unfortunately he will fail. So Pasuk Gimel brings us the event that starts the events that will bring the battle to bear. And we don't have an explanation why this happens. Pasuk Gimel. Vayach Yonasan eis netziv plishtim asher begeva. So Yonasan, his son, kills a Plishti governor who was in Geva. Vayishmu Plishtim. Plishtim heard about this. We don't know why Yonasan killed him. Commentaries don't tell us why he killed him, but he did. This was not with his, and Malvin says, was without his father's permission. He didn't ask his father, whatever. Something must have happened. Certainly, Yonasan was a tzaddik. Something must have provoked him to do this. Be that as it may, he kills this Roman governor. The police hear about this, and obviously they're not going to take that sitting back. Shaul talk of a shofar b'chol haaretz leimor yishma ivrim, and Shaul blows a shofar throughout the land, proclaiming that the Jews should listen to the fact that they blew the shofar. And now the Malbim explains. So how did they really find out about that? So now there's policemen here about it, and therefore Shaul, after he sent everybody back to their tents, right? He had to bring them now back to hear that they have to prepare themselves to battle, because the policemen heard about this, and it's not going to be good. Pasuk Dalet, v'chol Yisrael shamu leimor, and all the Jewish people heard about it, saying, Hika Shaul es netziv plishtim. Shaul killed a governor of the plishtim. V'gam nivash Yisrael b'plishtim, and the Jewish people are now held in disdain to the plishtim. V'yitzaku ha'am acharei Shaul Gilgal, and the Jewish people gathered together to the call of Shaul in Gilgal. There's a number of issues over here. What do you mean? Shaul did not kill the Plishti. It was Yonasan who killed the Plishti. And what is this that they all heard, as it were? So they're saying, listen, after Yonasan did what he did, and Shaul is getting the people ready for battle, so now the whole action gets attributed to Shaul. In other words, Shaul could have disowned himself and discredited Yonasan's activities. Just like you have, Lo Lane, you have sometimes religious Jews do things that are very terrible, and everyone says, oh, see, this is what religious Jews are all about, and then the rabbis have to get up and say, no, this is not what religious Judaism is all about. We discredit those activities, we disassociate ourselves from these people, they did the wrong thing. So Shaul had the opportunity to say, I don't know, I have a young son, and he did things that I didn't ask him to do, and what's going on over here? And they could have publicly rebuked him. But he did not do that. And he gathers people together, so that he's agreeing to what happened. And therefore, Shaul gathers the people so he strengthens Yonasan's activity, prepares the people for battle. So now we're saying, well, people were saying either he put Yonasan to it, or by acknowledging that it was a good thing, after the fact, you're still being credited as if, and you are the king, so you have to take responsibility for this. And therefore, even though it was the actions of one man, but now that the whole Jewish people got together around Shaul and Yonasan, so therefore they are now held in disdain by the Plishtim, and that's the situation they're in. The Plishtim are upset with them, and the Jews have gathered together in their place. Pasuk Hey, Plishtim nesvu lilachem im Yisrael. Now the Plishtim gather themselves up to fight against the Jewish people. And how many Plishtim are there? 30,000 rechev, 30,000 chariots, v'sheshes alofim paroshim, and 6,000 horsemen. V'am, and a nation, besides the chariots and the horsemen, kachol asher al sfas yom larov, like the sand over the beaches of the sea. So that's how many there were. So countless more thousands of Plishtim going to battle. They ascended and camped in Michmash, to the east of a place called Beis Oven. So the Malvim is saying how the Jews were in danger for a few reasons over here. Number one, there's a lot of Plishtim over here. A big amount of Plishtim, number one. Number two, where are they gathering? They're gathering in Michmash. And what was Michmash? What did we already tell you a couple of seconds before? This is where Shaul was. So they really have gone, so to speak, to the seat of the king. Where? And so they're not taking any neutral spots. Like, just imagine a place, a nation go to war against the United States and they're camping in Washington. Right? It's a big chutzpah, and it's a great danger, because that's where the king is, and that's where they're fighting against him, says the Malbim. Okay, so know what happens in Pasuk Vav. V'ish Yisrael rol kitzarlo. Each Jewish man saw that things were very bad. It was a bad sorrow. Ki nigas ha'am, the people, the nation was oppressing them, and the Jewish people panicked. And the people began to hide. They chickened out. They hid in different places. Ba'ma'oros, in caves, uba'chavovim, in places where there are thorns, uba'sloimim, by rocks, uba'tzrichim, in towers, uba'boros, and in pits. They hid wherever they could hide. In other words, the Jews sensed there was a tzara. And the Malbim elaborates in this pasuk and the next pasuk. There's 4 reasons why things are not good. Number one is that the nation is being oppressed. In other words, the Plishtim had already been oppressing them, that they camped around various cities and were oppressing them as if they were ruling the country. Number 2, the people were hiding. And who was hiding? The Malbim says, the 1,000 people, soldiers of that honor guard, right, who were in Michmash, they didn't fight. They went and hid. So the troops were not exactly the bravest troops. Okay? And more than that, you see the panic that happens. Pasuk Zayin, V'ivrim avru es hayarden, and the Jews were close to the Jordan River. Instead of gathering together to assist Shaul, what do? They crossed the Jordan River to run away. Es Yarden Eretz Gad v'Gilad, the land of Gad and Gilad. The ones who were near the Yarden said, we got a quick escape route. Let's get out of here. Shaul odenu bar Gilgal, and Shaul is still in Gilgal. V'chol ha'am chordu achrav, and all the other people feared after him. So the Mama says this is the 4th point, that really Shaul should have got out to fight a battle and not allow them to start capturing other cities. He knew anything. He was just sitting in Gilgal. Shaul himself wasn't doing anything. And in a minute we'll explain why. And therefore the people were very much afraid after him, meaning to say they quickly became scared and too afraid to go after him because they were pressuring him to fight, right? And not to sit around in Gilgal, and he was sitting around in Gilgal. So you're all wondering, why isn't he fighting? So now we have to go back to something that Shmuel told him the very first time he saw him, if you remember. The very first time he saw him, there was a pasuk that was mentioned that didn't seem to make any sense over there. He told him after he anointed him, and he's going to take his leave from him. The first time he saw him, he says, "This is what's going to happen. You're going to meet these people. You're going to meet these people, and then you're going to meet a bunch of prophets. All this is going to happen," and they happen. And this was in Perek Yud, pasuk Ches. And all of a sudden comes this pasuk in 3 chapters ago. It says, "V'yarat lefanei ha-Gilgal." You'll descend down before me in Gilgal, and then I will come and bring korbanos. And 7 days you'll wait till I'll come, and I'll tell you what you should do. So what does that mean? He says there's going to be a time in the future I'm going to tell you to wait 7 days, and you better wait for me 7 days before you do anything in Gilgal. Right? So these are the 7 days.
That's what he was doing now.
This is the 7 days. This is why he's doing it. He's listening to the Navi. The Navi said there's going to be a time when you're going to get to Gilgal. So obviously, there's something missing in between the lines here. But certainly he asked Shmuel, what should I do? Or maybe Shmuel said there's going to be a time where you're going to be in Gilgal. There's going to be a war. I want you to know that war, when you're going to be in Gilgal, you have to wait 7 days till I bring korbanos to Hashem. So he's given this to wait 7 days. So 7 days is passing, and it says Vayichal, he waited 7 days to the time for Shmuel to come, and Shmuel does not come. Right? So now you can see why. Let's start adding up the reasons, as you'll see in a moment. Shaul does not wait till the full ending of the 7 days. 7 times 24 hours, 168 hours on the dot. Okay, so you're going to see it. Now Malbim is going to explain to us 4 reasons why he felt compelled not to wait to the very end over there. So number one, you could see there was a great danger, as the previous psukim already said. The police are already all over the place. People are getting scared. They're hiding. The longer you wait, the more people are getting scared. So number one, he's seeing every moment he's waiting, he's losing troops. So that's not good. That's number one. And number two, he waited for the time of Shmuel, and it says below Ba Shmuel HaGilgal. He doesn't come. So he figured maybe he only wants me to wait 7 days, but not 7 full days. Because we have a rule, Mixas Yom Kikul. Part of the day is like a whole day, like Shiva. Get up in the 7th day. You don't sit a full 7 days. The beginning of the 7th day is finished. But rule Mixas Yom Kikul. So if you 7 days, you come. So he doesn't come. And more than that, let's go on to the next pasuk. I'm sorry, still in this pasuk, it says, and then it said at the end of pasuk Ches, Vayofetz ha'am me'alav, and the nation spread out. And he's losing troops. So now we come to pasuk Tes. Vayomer Shaul says to the people around, Hagish elai ha'olav Hashem, bring to me the korban ol shlamim. Vayal, and he brings the olah. And he says, and still, he didn't start to go to battle without Shmuel. He only brought the korban in order to get Hashem to be on his side. And his mistake was he thought Shmuel only commanded him not to fight until he tells him what to do, not to go bring the korban. Now that's really, a bit of a stretch, because Shmuel specifically said, I'll be the one to bring the korbanos. So, but he probably figured, to go to battle, but not to bring the korbanos. Again, you start getting nervous, you forget things, you make mistakes in judgment, etc., etc. So, there's all kinds of justifications. He felt that he should be able to do this. Pasuk Yud. So you figured whatever day of the week it was, so it probably was getting late in the afternoon, right? It's probably late in the afternoon, Shmuel's not coming. He figures, I guess he's not here already. So probably towards the end of the 7th day, he goes and brings the korbanos. He's in the midst of bringing the korbanos. Pasuk Yud. Vayhi kechalos ola halos ha'ola, and it was now at the end when he was bringing up the ola, when he's finishing up bringing the ola. Hinei, and suddenly Shmuel comes. Vayetze Shul ikrasa levarcho, and Shul goes out to greet him and to bless him. So he's not totally finished bringing the korban, but he's got the process going. He's going out to Shmuel. Vayomer Shmuel. And Shmuel says, Melasisa, what have you done? You weren't supposed to do. You're supposed to wait. What have you done? So now Shul, what should he have said? Should have said, I made a mistake. I guess you did come at the end. I didn't wait long enough. But of course, that's not what he's going to do. And he gives all kinds of reasons, as we'll see the Malum. He gives 4 excuses as to why he did what he did. And this is what he answers. Vayomer Shul. He's number 1, he says, Ki ra'isi ki nafatza amei alai. Number 1, I see the people are spreading out from me. They're running away. They're fleeing. I'm losing my troops. And number 2, and you didn't come at the designated time. Number 3, uplishtim ne'asafi michmash, and the plishtim are gathering around Michdash. I mean, they're very close to him. It's not like they came to a centrally located battlefield, right? And finally, so I'm running out of options over here. You're leaving me alone, right? Yud Beis. V'omar, and I said, Ato yerdu plishtim ala Gilgal. The plishtim are going to come to me. They're going to come to me right now. Uflei Hashem lo chalisi, and I didn't, make my requests from Hashem. I didn't pay my homage to Hashem. I'm going to go. They're going to fight me any second. You're not here. I'm going to go fight a battle without, giving a korban to Hashem. Vesapek, I should wait. So I waited, but I had to bring an ola. I still waited, and I didn't go to battle. All I did was brought the korban. I didn't do anything more. Because I figured, that you didn't command me not to bring the korban. So, in other words, he has 2 types of excuses. One is like ones, things beyond his control. Right? That was the first and the third thing. He sees people are slipping away. The plishtim are ready to attack. And the second and fourth excuses are, okay, I made a mistake in what you said. I made a mistake in the calculations of days. I made a calculation. I thought you said I can't go to war, but I could bring a korban. So he's giving all kinds of excuses. Oh, this isn't good. This isn't good. Yud Gimel. Yomer Shmuel el Shul. Shmuel said to Shul, Niskolta. You have acted foolishly. Lo shamartes mitzvahs Hashem elokecha asher tzivach. You did not keep the mitzvah that Hashem, your God, commanded you. And now because of that, we'll have to see exactly. Because now, Hechin Hashem es mamlachtecha el yisod olam. Hashem had prepared your kingdom over the Jewish people to be forever. That's what Hashem wanted. But pasuk Yudalad, but now mamlachtecha lo sakum, your kingdom will not stand at all. Bikesh Hashem lo ish kilvavo. Hashem was looking for a man like his heart. Hashem commanded you to be a nagid over his people, like a leader, a prince. But you have not listened to what Hashem has commanded you. So the Malum explains that which you thought, you made all your calculations, to be smarter than the word of Hashem was a very foolish thing. By not listening to the command of Hashem, that's a very foolish thing. You shouldn't have made it all kinds of interpretations, but you rather should have kept the mitzvah b'tmimis, as the Navi said. Don't make calculations. I said, wait. But just listen. That's all you had to do was listen. All these calculations, that's foolishness. You think you're being clever? You're being foolish. And now you've lost 2 things. Number 1, you lost the benefit you could have had, because Hashem was preparing. This was really just a test from Hashem. This was the first. You're the king, and Hashem was testing right from the beginning. and if you would have passed the test, you would have had an eternal kingdom. Now the commentaries ask, what do you mean he would have an eternal kingdom? We already know from Yaakov's blessings to Yehuda, Yehuda's got to be the king. There's no way he could have ever been the king together. So one of the Meforshim explains that the Ralbag says that he would have been a king very long. A long time, till he died of old age, whatever, would have 60, 70, 80 years, then he would have died and finished this end of his kingdom, and then a new king from Yehuda would have taken place. It wouldn't come to an abrupt end. I was preparing to make you a king forever. But in Pasuk Yidal, the Rambam explains, but now you're going to get a punish actually, because not only Hashem will not prepare your kingdom, rather your kingdom, the way it is now, will not stand. Because Hashem now has given it to someone else as a punishment, because you didn't listen to what Hashem said. And the Rambam continues, and he also says, you should also know, that which you thought, by transgressing my words, that your kingdom will continue in a normal way. You figured it's a normal way you do things. We go b'derech hateva. You run a kingship b'derech hateva, the way normal military tactics are done, which means you really didn't put your trust in Hashem, that you should have just been quiet. So this was a great foolishness. Because really what was going on, because if Hashem wants your kingdom to rule, you can go beyond nature. You were supposed to cast all your worries to Hashem. And now your kingdom is not going to be, in other words, if you would have passed this test, then I would have led you shalok k'derech hateva. I would have given you a supernatural assistance. And now you just wanted to do things naturally. Jewish people never survive naturally. We only survive supernaturally. They need a king who could trust Hashem that things are going to work in a supernatural way. You saw this with the miracles I did before. And I even gave you prophets. I did a number of things. So therefore you didn't have the right bitachon in Hashem. So for that, Hashem can't conduct himself in a supernatural way with you. Only people who have bitachon on Hashem, Hashem can act in a supernatural way. And I won't be able to do this. So really it boils down to an issue of bitachon, and a king's got to have the right amount of bitachon. And now already see there's a problem with bitachon. Okay, we'll have to elaborate more exactly on the nature of the Aveira and why it's such a harsh punishment. But we already can see the end of Shul is already in the beginning over here.